So by now we all know that Melania Trump's name has appeared repeatedly in the batch of Epstein files produced by Donald Trump's Department of Justice. She was emailing Ghislaine Maxwell back in 2002, calling Ghislaine Maxwell G, applauding Ghislaine Maxwell for the New York Magazine feature on J.E., Jeffrey Epstein. That's the article where Donald Trump said that Epstein is a great guy who likes women on the younger side. She said that Ghislaine looked amazing in the photos in New York Magazine. Ghislaine Maxwell responded to Melania, called her Sweet Pea, said she was too busy to meet with Melania in New York, but that they would figure out a time to meet soon. So we know that. That's undisputed. We know that Melania had this relationship with Ghislaine. It's in the files, right? But Melania is still going to court and pretending that didn't take place at all. Melania just filed a very shocking document in federal court in New York in her ongoing lawsuit with Michael Wolff. She didn't sue Wolff. Wolff sued her. Remember what happened here? She threatened to sue Wolff and said that he defamed her by saying certain things about her relationship to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, which she denied. She said that her reputation was damaged to the tune of $1 billion based on what she said were false allegations by Michael Wolff. She said, if you don't apologize to me and retract by such and such a date, I forget that, mid-October, I'm going to sue you for $1 billion. Michael Wolff then sued Melania for chilling his First Amendment speech. He filed what's called an anti-SLAPP lawsuit in New York State Court. Melania avoided service. She ducked and dodged and weaved to avoid a process server handing her Wolff's lawsuit. Wolff filed in state court. She eventually appears in federal court, and she did what's called a removal. And she said, the case doesn't belong in New York State Court because I don't live in New York. I live in Florida, she says, at Mar-a-Lago. That's my residence. And because I live in Florida, you live in New York, and the amount in controversy is over $75,000. The case belongs in Florida federal court. So I'm going to ask, she says, a New York federal judge to transfer the case to a Florida federal court and or have a New York federal judge dismiss it. And Melania argues, I was never served, so the case should be dismissed because I avoided getting served with the document. And then she said she's not from New York and that there's no jurisdiction and that it violates her due process rights to be sued in New York. So then in response to that filing, Michael Wolff did a filing and said, hey, did everybody see the Melania movie? She's in New York the entire time. All the people close to her live in New York. And Michael Wolff argued that it's an artifice. It's a fugazi. It's a fake. Sure, she may claim to live in Florida and have a Florida driver's license and a Florida mailing address, but she's just doing that in order to avoid connections with New York. But Wolff argues she's really from New York. And so the case belongs in New York State Court. It shouldn't be removed to New York Federal Court and then transferred to Florida Federal Court. And as we've speculated here on the MeidasTouch Network, she's trying to get the case before Judge Eileen Cannon in Fort Pierce in Florida or another Trump-friendly judge there to try to get the case ultimately dismissed. Wolff says bring the case back to New York State Court. So this filing by Melania is a filing, and she just filed, and she said her reputation has still been damaged, she said, by Wolff to the tune of $1 billion. So she goes, notwithstanding the fact that she's in the Epstein files in the way that I described. An email from her to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2002 saying, gee, great spread with J.E., great article, words to that effect. And then Ghislaine Maxwell calls her Sweet Pea and would love to meet up soon. And I'm too busy right now, but we'll figure out a time. Despite that, and again, to me, That's pretty bad stuff. I mean, it shows, I'm giving you my opinion. So let me, again, just reiterate this, that I'm utilizing my First Amendment rights under the Constitution in this video. What I've said before, here, and after is I'm giving you First Amendment opinion speech. So I'm giving you that disclaimer, but I'm describing, I think, fairly accurately I'll show you the emails, what are in the emails. You can read it yourself. I'm paraphrasing, but you can read the emails yourself. I think they're pretty damaging emails, but Melania still says, she still has the audacity to say that she's damaged to the tune of $1 million because she says her reputation is just so good that she's been damaged to, just so much money right here. Let's pull open what our argument is right here. And here's what she has to say. Let's take a look right here. The October 15th demand letter that she sent to Michael Wolff reserves the right to initiate defamation against plaintiff Wolff, seeking over $1 billion in damages. Melania says that figure was not plucked out of thin air. Mrs. Trump is one of the most high-profile people on the planet, and plaintiff Michael Wolff's repugnant, scandalous, and defamatory statements were maliciously intended to destroy Mrs. Trump's sterling reputation and sully her character. Mrs. Trump carried her minimal burden to show that it does not appear to a legal certainty that defendants' claims in which plaintiff seeks to avoid liability are worth more than $75,000. Her claims for $1 billion in damages were not plucked out of thin air. She goes, her reputation is stellar. When everyone thinks about First Lady Melania, they think stellar reputation. Didn't you see the latest polling that she's like the least popular first lady in history, the second most despised first lady in history? But you take a look at her statement here and she's just like, Judge, you need to dismiss this case because I avoided service. So because I snuck away from them serving me with the lawsuit, it should get dismissed. And Judge, because I have a Florida license and a Florida address, I shouldn't be held to, you can't question if I actually live in New York. I mean, by the way, Michael Wolff, in his court filings, he listed the purported apartment number that she actually lives in Trump Tower, not the penthouse with Donald Trump. She goes, he stays in the penthouse, but her real room number, he lists her real room number, describes in his declaration that Barron lives there, that all of her coworkers live there, that her life is there. And then he cites her social media posts from 2024, where she says, New York is my home. And then when she spoke at Madison Square Garden in the 2024 campaign, she goes, basically, this is my home. Manhattan is where I live, or words to that effect. Let's go look at her court filing right here. Plaintiff's confused and scattershot opposition provides no basis for any part of this case, which never should have been filed to survive dismissal. And that plaintiff admits that he never validly served Mrs. Trump. That's not what Wolff says. Wolff says he tried to serve you and you hid from him. That he says that he went to Trump Tower, spoke to the bellman or the concierge downstairs, who said that you lived there, but you were refusing to accept service, and that you lived in the Trump Tower. That's what Michael Wolff says in his declaration. And she goes on to say, plaintiff concedes he never validly served Mrs. Trump. Then it goes on, which I just described, that she's avoided service, so therefore dismiss the case because she hides from him. I mean, it's the most ridiculous defense. You hide from, you're in court right now. So fight it out in court. What are you afraid of? Didn't you say you were going to sue Michael Wolff? Didn't you say he was defaming you? Why don't you sue him for $1 billion? Or are you too afraid of discovery? Do you not want to be deposed about your email to Ghislaine and Ghislaine's email to you? Do you not want to discuss that? Do you not want to discuss how you met Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club? Do you not want to discuss Paolo Zampoli? Do you not want to discuss the modeling agency you were with? Do you not want to discuss the real story about Melania? Do you not want to discuss why you told people that you graduated from a college that you didn't actually graduate from? Do you not want to discuss these things, that you act like you were this supermodel when you really weren't, in my opinion, which, well, and a lot of other people's opinions as well. Anyway, Here's what she basically says. She goes, Mrs. Trump is subject to general jurisdiction only if she's a New York domiciliary, and it's undisputed that she's not from New York. As Michael Wolff's own cited case law observe, factors frequently taken into account in determining domicile include residence, voting registration, driver's license, and automobile registration. Those factors unequivocally show that Mrs. Trump is a Florida domiciliary. Plaintiff does not dispute that since October 29, Mrs. Trump's primary residence has been Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, nor does he dispute, because he cannot, that Mrs. Trump has been registered to vote and has voted in Florida in every federal election since that time. He does dispute it. Not that you voted there. He disputes that you really live in Florida. This whole motion is saying that you're a liar and that you claim to live in Mar-a-Lago, but nobody sees you in Palm Beach. Nobody really thinks you live in Mar-a-Lago. Sure, you show up there for certain events to show your face around Donald Trump there, but the reality is, Wolff argues, your main residence is in Trump Tower, and he gives all of the explanations, including using your own words. But this is what she's arguing. Just think about it. Rather than her suing Michael Wolff for defamation, if she thinks that Wolff defamed her reputation for $1 billion, that's bad, right? And saying that you lied, because I think, his articles talk about who introduced her to who and how did she meet Donald, and he makes allegations about Epstein connections and all. And she goes, you've sullied my reputation $1 billion. Then sue him. Melania also threatened to sue Hunter Biden for $1 billion. And she didn't do that lawsuit. So sue Hunter Biden, sue Michael Wolff. Let's have the discovery. Let them take your deposition, sit there for 7 hours, and answer all of the questions. There's nothing more that I would love than, as a former litigator, there's nothing more that I would love than to sit across from Melania, take her deposition for 7 hours straight, put it on camera, and then put it here for everybody to watch. Real transparency, right? The MAGAs want to do a deposition of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's not in the Epstein files ever. Melania is. Melania's referenced speaking to Ghislaine and saying J.E. did great job in the New York Magazine article. Words to that effect. That New York Magazine article was disgusting. You think he looked great in the New York? That was a disgusting article, and Trump said disgusting things in the article about Epstein. That, in my opinion, were red flags. So why Hillary and not Melania? And Hillary said she wants to testify publicly. She goes, let me do a hearing in front of the world. To which the MAGAs all say, no, we can't let you do that, Hillary. You can't do that. We're going to do a secret hearing with. Why? She wants to do it publicly because you're scared. So just think about this. You've got Melania running away from service, making arguments that she's not from New York. She hasn't been served. There's no jurisdiction. She makes a due process argument. I want you to think about, I kid you not. She makes an argument about her due process rights have been violated. Let me try to find where it is, where it talks about her due process rights over here. And, I'm thinking about this due process argument. And it's like, think about all the people who are being denied actual due process by Donald Trump, who are being denied habeas corpus petitions, who are being denied their actual rights. And she has the audacity to talk. Here it is. Exercising personal jurisdiction would violate due process. Plaintiff Michael Wolff cannot show the maintenance of this suit would not offend traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice. It is difficult to fathom a scenario less offensive to traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice than that presented here. A defamation victim being forced to litigate her claims against her will in the alleged home jurisdiction of the tortfeasor. Can I read that one more time for you? Because this is what the sociopaths, in my opinion, I'm giving my opinion, do. They play the victim. You threaten to sue him. You threaten to sue his speech. And he lives in New York. You threatened to sue him. So he brought a lawsuit in New York. You could countersue him in New York. But that's not what these sociopaths do. because when you hit them, they play the victim. And she goes, she cannot think of a situation. It's difficult to fathom a scenario less offensive to traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice than that presented here. I could think of, Melania, many a scenario that is more offensive to traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice than you having to litigate a case that essentially you initiated against Wolf in the location where you initiated it against him in New York, where he lives. I think about the survivors. I think about the immigrants. I think about all of the people who Donald Trump's ripped away health care from. I think about all of the people that Donald Trump is attacking in this country. I think that those are the people who have arguments about, I think most of the people watching this have far better arguments about fair play and substantial justice than you do. That's how privileged you are. You don't even see it, what you just wrote. As you hide, as you run away, as you beg a judge to transfer or dismiss the case. Wow. Especially with what we've seen in the files and the emails you're on. Are you going to deny you're on those emails? Was that all? That's not real. Nothing is real. Don't believe anything, everybody. Fair play, due process. Pathetic. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.